Hey, we're back again. We're on,
Refresh.
oh my God. Okay, so we're on, back up on Facebook. And sorry about it, everyone. Try and jump back on. We're here live again. So they know it because it happens a lot. So we're Davis, Carole Davis. Yay. Talking about her beginning with the crystal skull. And our first view of it and the second time with it and feeling out of control and a little bit afraid of it and and I'll let you continue, Carole. Thank you.
Well, as time went on, I managed to get more comfortable, and now I wanted to sort of investigate this crystal skull and find out really what it was. And this was back in the 70s, remember, and we didn't all have computers, and certainly I wasn't, and still not very good with technology. And the closest that I could bring any description to is that it is a computer that is far in advance of anything we have now.
Hmm.
And that was the beginning. One time when I went there, there was a writer, and he said, "How would you like to do a book?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And Sammy was all for it. Anna was all for it and said, "Yes, yes, let's write a book." And he said, "Well, we'll take down the information that comes from the skull and we'll put it in a book." And I said, "Okay, sure." And so for a year, I was probably going up there at least once a week. And we did the book, and lots of people came to see the skull and ask questions. And it was a very exciting time. It was a whole new chapter of my life, I guess.
Yeah, an adventure for sure, right?
It was, yeah. And so we put the book together and called it The Skull Speaks. And back then, there was not all the rage of crystal skulls.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly anybody knew anything about crystal skulls. And soon after the book came out, well, there was an explosion of crystal skulls and lots of what I called really weird stuff going on. So I ran away and hid. I thought this wasn't what I thought I was doing, and I didn't want to be a party of other things that were happening with crystal skulls. So basically, I just withdrew and let the crystal skull world do what it's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very strange ideas about crystal skulls that
What's one of the weirdest ones you've heard?
the weirdest one that
Yeah.
really upset that can put me in a tizzy is that one skull downloads from the other skull.
Wow.
But it isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great sales gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use a little common sense, if you put two computers side by side, supposing you have a Hewlett Packard and an Apple,
Mm-hmm.
and you set them side by side, one isn't going to download from the other one. They'll just sit there.
Yeah, in their own unique way,
Yes.
right? Because they're very unique.
And what would be the point if you had one crystal skull that downloaded the same information and kept going and going and going? Where would any of the new information come from?
No, it wouldn't.
so, so I say to people, please, and everybody wants to put their bit of crystal up by the crystal skull, and I say, use a little common sense. If you're going to download anything, it's going to be into your subconscious.
Right, right.
So forget your little bit of crystal and just sit there, because
Right.
now it's going to start working on you. But
And it can do it long distance too. It doesn't have, you don't have,
absolutely,
that's the part
okay.
that I just love about it is that um, it's where you sit there with it and you start, for me, I found that it had such a personality. And
Uh,
did you find that right away yourself, or did how was that for you?
I didn't. I just to me it was like finding the fountain of knowledge.
Mm.
There was just so much, and is so much, um, in the skull, uh, of knowledge, and it affects all material matter, and some that isn't material too.
Mm.
And I think that it said of itself that people of like minds will be drawn to it. When I think about that, I think it's more that it's on a subconscious level that we have yet to explore. We really do not know too much about what is termed the imagination. Mm-hmm. And the skull gave great teachings on that, it said that this is the part that is connected to your spirit. Mm-hmm. And it is like, it likened it to a computer. It said that your soul is the program, and that is the part connected to whatever you term to be God or the universe. Your spirit is like the search engine, and it's constantly telling you, do this, but we have free will, so mm-hmm. we don't always listen. So our logical mind is like opening the computer, opening to life. And we have all these options, and your subconscious, your spirit self is saying, do the right thing, do this. And how often do we listen? Not very often. We say, no, I want to do this. And it'll say, you won't like it. And sure enough, I don't like it, but I did it. And I think human beings are like that. That little voice that says, Right. And we say, no, it'll be fine.
Right,
Oops,
right.
It wasn't.
Well, I know when you did the channeling, when I met you for the first time last year at Contact, it was just amazing. You would touch the skull, and like you said, it's like a hookup. It's like a. Oops, there we go again, and and like an extension. It's like I don't know. It reminded me for lightning for some reason when you would touch it, it would be like a lightning connection, and you would just get the download, and you would just speak for the skull. It was pretty amazing experience.
It's interesting because I get left with ideas that I think were mine. I think I have this really good idea. People would say to me, especially Bill says, well, the skull already said that. Oh, okay. Oh, really? I just thought I had this brilliant flash of knowledge, and no, the skull already said that 2 weeks ago or something. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, okay, so we started at the beginning, the first couple times you did the skull. How many times have you channeled the skull? Do you have any idea?
No. I mean...
Hundreds?
Oh, yes.
Thousands, maybe? Or
well, that was over a few years.
Yeah, how many years now, though? It's been quite a few years, right?
Yes. And then I sort of drew back from everything. I thought, no, this crystal skull thing's gone crazy, and that's not what it was about. So I just kind of hid. And mm-hmm. It's interesting because when you do that, you see yourself quoted. Because I'm so old, people thought I was dead. Oh, then I go in and say, "Excuse me, but I didn't say that." And that was interesting. And then Bill contacted me again and said, we should write another book. And it was interesting because I thought I'd had this idea, maybe we should write another book. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to get involved with the crystal skull again. And then out of the blue, Bill contacts me and said, I think we should do another book. And I said, oh, okay. How are we going to do that? You live there in the States, I live in Canada, and this takes a lot of doing. And mm-hmm. I was going to Arizona. And he said, well, I'll meet you in Arizona. And it sort of all started again. Like the skull has a way of putting you, even if yourself says, I don't think so, it will open up doors whereby something that you'd like to do, you go to do, and there's the skull. Huh. For instance, Contact in the Desert. My favorite place is Palm Desert in the world. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, they wanted the skull. And they said, would you like to come with the skull to this conference? I said, no, not really. We're ancient aliens. And they said, well, it's in Palm Desert. I said, oh, hello. Hello. So it has ways.
Yeah, it gets, for me, it just got, like you were saying, in the subconscious, where it's just kind of there, where I had a couple dreams of it and a couple, it's just kind of in the background. It hasn't ever kind of left. It's just kind of there.
Yes.
That's kind of where it just kind of sits there. And yeah, I'm not, I don't know what role I'm playing, but I'm in it somehow, some way, and I just show up when I'm supposed to show up. That's all you can do, right?
Right. And that's exactly what it makes openings, and it brings people together that you wouldn't normally dream would come to see a crystal skull. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't know why they're there either.
Huh.
And it will open parts of your psyche that needed to be opened. Mm. And I think, too, a lot of people, when they come to see it, especially women, but we've had a few men, start weeping and really crying. And I thought, what is this about? Yeah. So I said so I asked the skull, why are these people crying? And it said that when we have been badly hurt, and not a physical hurt necessarily, although it can be, mm-hmm. that it leaves a scar and it leaves a blockage. And when you connect with the crystal skull, it removes that blockage. And of course, whenever we have an emotional block that gets released, what do? We usually cry.
Cry it, yeah.
Yes. And as soon as that gets taken away, somebody described it, it's rather like a child with a very loving parent that kind of saves you, and you get this release of emotion that has caused a blockage in your progression of thinking or spirituality, whichever word you'd like to put on it.
Mm-hmm. I know for me it was, I saw it laughing. It was just like all this laughter. It was full of laughter. That's how I remember it. And when I see it, that's how I see it still. It's just laughing. It has this amazing free laughter to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
it does. And smile.
Yeah, it has a big smile, right?
Knowing smile at times. Like I look at it and I think, are you really grinning? Like it's a smile, like ha, told you so.
Yeah, like a Cheshire cat grin, right? Kind of like that. And I mean, and I only had the one experience with it, really. Well, maybe two, but I mean, you have had so much with it. Is it like a friend or family, or do you just kind of, does it sit in the background a little still, or?
It's like a friend. Like it has a lot of memories because. A lot of the times I was with Sammy and then Cynthia, her assistant, and Sammy and I became really good friends. So over the years, I got to hear many background stories, and it always kind of upsets me and amazes me when I see what people have written about the background of the skull. And I have seen papers that I was privileged to see that none of these people have seen, and yet they write all these things about the skull, and they have proof. And it's interesting because some of the books they never even met Anna Mitchell-Hedges, but they have all this proof. And it's like, I don't think so.
Right.
So I want to say, that's not true. But I sit back and I think, the skull doesn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
What it cares about, or what it seems to be, the information within there is so non-judgmental. It just is, and here it is, and it's for you, and the information was left here to help mankind, or humankind, and then it's up to you what you do with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's like a friend.
Yeah.
And it's still something that I can find out what it's all about, but
do you think you had ever a past life during that time, or do you have kind of a time period where they think that the skull fits, or where it comes from, a time period?
Well, they say that it was part of the great. I think it says it's part of the great. See, I haven't read the book. I have to tell you this. I haven't read the book because me, the person, would argue with the book, so I don't read it. It said it was part
Mary Margaret. Sorry.
The great crystals of Atlantis, but Atlantis was not a piece of geography. It was a state of mind, meaning that there were many Atlanteans around the earth, and that this was an extraterrestrial race that was particularly trying to further mankind, or humankind that was upon the earth, in a spiritual way. Did I have a past life with this? I have no idea. I didn't. I think that I'd like to say yes. Of course I did. I don't know. It's never said anything. It called me a child once.
It did? It did?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
When we were doing these experiments with the skull, and this was a fun time, there was a group of people, a physicist, a scientist, a medical doctor, one was an engineer. There was this group of people that thought they were going to find out all about this crystal skull stuff. And they had me all wired up and very strange stuff going on, recording this, that, and the other. And I said, well, why don't we ask, the skull said that the ancient people, the Maya, the pre-Maya actually, used to use it to control the weather. Why don't we see if it'll do that? That's a good experiment. Anyway, so halfway through the session, somebody says, well, you've said that ancient people could use this instrument to control the weather. Can you show us? And it said, yes, or agreed. It doesn't answer like yes and no. It'll said something like agreed. And it said, rain. Okay, so it was a summer day, and within about 7 or 8 minutes, it started to rain. And that was okay. So and the skull carried on giving information about this, that, and something else. And then it said enough. Apparently, I put my hand in the air and said enough, and it stopped raining. So after the session, I wanted to know, did you ask about the weather? And it said yes. And it rained for about half an hour, and it told it to stop, and it stopped within a few minutes. We got it timed. I said, oh, that's good. That's great. And I said, but you know what? That could be coincidence. So the next week, I said, don't forget, we're going to ask about the weather again. So through the asking questions, and it said, and somebody said, well, can you show us how you control the weather? And the skull said yes, or affirmative. started to rain. It started to rain quite heavily, and the wind started to blow. And they said, and all through it getting heavier, like a cloud burst, and the wind got up, and it's information, and then it got a little loud, so apparently it said stop or cease or whatever it said, and within X amount of minutes, the weather. So afterwards I asked, did you ask it to the weather? Yes, we did. This is what happened. This is the timing. I said, oh, but do you think that could be a coincidence? Because it's summer and da-da-da, and I thought about it. So so we were doing these once a week, and then the next week they said, that mind that you're using would like you to control the weather again, or show us how you would control the weather. And the answer was, that's because she is a child. Rain. And apparently there was one hell of a storm, and so much so that Sammy's windows were rattling.
Wow.
And the hail came, and the wind came, and apparently Sammy got upset, and she spoke and said, tell it to stop. And so the skull said, enough. And within a few minutes, bright sunlight again. Now,
holy crap.
And in the paper and on the TV at night, when the news came on, it said, unusual weather pattern over Kitchener, which was this little area where Sammy and the skull were. And I said, okay, I'm not going to play anymore.
Yeah, you haven't done that since, probably, right?
That was it. But yes, it was reported on the news and in the newspapers. So, yes.
Well, and I understand that they, when they discovered the skull, that the natives bowed down and were so grateful that their God had come. Is that?
Yes. Yes. Actually, she found the first piece and had to go back into the crater to get the jaw. But yes, they did. And that's an interesting story, because her father was not a happy man, because all the natives would not work, and they lit fires all around and were worshipping, and wouldn't help him with the excavations, etc. So he was not happy. Hence it was called the Skull of Doom. But that's a whole other story that's gotten misconstrued all around.
Yeah, from how does it go from the Skull of Doom to the Skull of Love, and that's considered the Skull of Love today, correct?
Yes, and it was never considered doom as in doom and gloom. But the one person, Sammy told me the interesting story about somebody that tried to steal it and was just frozen to the floor until they came down and found him there, with the skull in his hands, had to take it off of him, and he fled and never came back. That was funny. That might be a doom thing, but...
Right. Yeah, it just has such an amazing history to it. And we're getting ready for break now in just a few minutes. And for people to go ahead and contact you, the best way, if you're listening now or listening later, is to go ahead and go on Facebook and go to the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull Meditations. And I'll put the link up right now, but it's the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull Meditations, and you can leave Carole a message there. And they have one coming up, I believe it's April 23rd, I think is the next one. But if you go to their website, or not to the website, to Facebook, and go to Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull Meditations, then you can see all the events there that they're having. And you have them usually on full moons and then new moons. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that right after the break when we get back, because I've been able to experience a couple of those, and they're really phenomenal, and you get to meet all these other like-minded people, right? That's kind of the
Yes.
skull kind of brings those people together. So I'm going to put that in the link right now. And we have one quick question. Marie Wright asks, can you get in touch with the Crystal Skull by remote viewing, or do you have to be with it?
I think that you can remote view it. Yeah, I mean you can see it by remote. If you're a good remote viewer, you can find out where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Does it contact you in that way? I think some people have said that they haven't actually seen it, but have seen photographs of it and then had dreams. So maybe it does.
That's interesting. I forgot about that, about the photos, that they would see photos and then have ideas. Do you think it would be the best, though, if you could hang out with it, right? Then you would have a direct
Yes.
link to it, and then you could use that later as a remote view or a meditation in meditation.
Yes. I think if you're, and Bill does bring it on the meditation nights, so you can see it live over the computer Zoom room. And I think if you ever get the chance to go and be with the skull, um, you will be, it's something you should do in your lifetime.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. And it is just like it's there. It's once you see it, it's like you're right. It's like it's right in your living room. So you get. So Marie Wright says, "Yeah, wow, I want to hang with it. She'd love to hang with it." So go ahead
So
and
would we all?
yeah, yeah. I don't know about you, but sometimes I miss it. You know. Okay, we'll be right back. This is our break, everybody. We'll be right back for part two with Carole Davis. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be
Wadia will remain a dictatorship. Be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could have rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of poor for healthcare and education. Your media appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
tune in Monday through Friday from Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you to imagine, but please try.
Ohio Exopolitics from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Studio A. Mark Schneider will have guests on that will discuss many important topics, including the state of the world today. However, much of the show will be dedicated to the writings of Edward Albert Meyer. Let me read a short passage from one of his writings. Love is the highest principle of creation, and through it, everything exists in absolute logic. All of nature in its indescribable splendor is nothing but the love of creation, which is expressed visibly. The love of creation is everywhere, because without it, nothing at all would be able to exist. Please join Mark on Ohio Exopolitics from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Studio A.
It is no secret that the so-called mainstream media is best described as controlled propaganda. Countless news stories are either totally ignored or spun with half-truths, and because of this, essential facts and vital information are often compromised. Join Dr. Ott every Friday night on OB at 10 p.m. Eastern and learn why the story behind the story was nominated for a Peabody Award in its second year of producing unparalleled broadcasting excellence in 1997. That is, if you really care about life.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey, and welcome back to the second part of the Cosmic Oracle Show. We are coming to you live from LA, and from our special guest, Carole Davis, is all the way in Canada. And so we're having a live chat with her today. We're talking all things Crystal Skull, and you know, just saying Crystal Skull, and I know it weighs like 12 pounds or something like that, and all the information that the Crystal Skull has for humanity. And Bill Homan is the caretaker of the Crystal Skull and has been for a number of years, and Carole Davis is the voice of the Crystal Skull. So we'll be having her back in just a moment. We do want to thank you for giving donations to Revolution Radio and keeping us on the air, and you can do that by going to freedomslips.com. That's freedomslips.com, and give a generous donation. I do have an exciting announcement as well. It's all set. Everything's ready to go. And my good friend, Stephen Myers, and I are going to be having a tour to Egypt. And it's all set, ready to go. Today's our official announcement. So, so we don't get stuck in coronavirus where we're stuck. We're going to get through this, and there's a future ahead of all of us, right? A glorious future. And so we have a tour all set to go, Egypt tour in 2021. It'll be February 3rd through February 15th. And it's called The Spiritual Pilgrimage and Initiation, a dynamic, life-changing adventure exploring ancient Egypt, her temples and culture through the heart of the goddess and the mind of the lost technologies. So we are going on a dahabeah. It's this beautiful, glorious, luxurious ship. And for 7 nights, we're going to float down the Nile and stop at all of her amazing temples with private tours to the King's Chamber and to the Pause of the Sphinx and to Philae Temple and also to Sekhmet's Chapel. So check it out. I put a link in the Facebook page. and get on the list. I'm excited about it. It's been too long since I've been to Egypt. I miss it. So so check it out, and we'd love to have you adventure with us in ancient Egypt. So I just had to say that. And welcome back, Carole Davis.
Thank you.
So
That sounds like an exciting trip.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. I miss it. I've been twice. Once I went the regular way, and the second time I floated down this amazing ship down the Nile, and it was surreal with the stars at night. It was like I had to pinch myself, because it's like, am I really doing this? This is so amazing. So, yeah. And I know with the skull, it's traveled all over the world too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So let's hear some adventure stories, Carole. I know there's a lot of them. So what's one that sticks out in your mind, that like a great adventure that you had with the skull that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, the one that is probably the most comical and one that stands out is when Anna Mitchell-Hedges was 92 years of age, I get a call, and she always started the same way. Hi, dear. Hi, Sammy. And sometimes that would get me into trouble. She said, we're going to Belize. I said, you're what? She said, we're going to Belize. I said, you are? She said, no, we are.
Oh.
What do you mean? I would like you to accompany Bill and I. We're going to Belize. I said, okay, thinking she can't be. I mean, she's 92 years of age.
92. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. I hope I'm like that, Carole.
And she said, yes, next week. And I said, okay. And she said, it'll be an adventure. So pack your bag. Okay. So we hang up, we chat a bit, and we hang up. And I call back knowing that Bill will answer. And I said, Sammy just said we're going to Belize. He said, yes, we are next week. I'll see you in such and such a place. And I said, are you for real? She's 92 years of age. Well, she wants to go, and she's already packed. I said, okay. So to cut a long story short, we arrive in Honduras, and Sammy had some very firm ideas of where she wanted to go, and in this one place we had to get transportation, and there wasn't any. And so Bill goes out, and he eventually finds a man with a truck. Well, the truck was probably young when this guy was young, and he was probably Sammy's age. So,
whoa.
And apparently all the drug dealers had the trucks.
Oh, that makes things interesting.
And the transportation. So anyway, it was a flatbed truck with a cabin just fit for the driver and the passenger. So we set off to this area that Sammy wanted to see, and Sammy chatting away to this guy who had a few teeth, and he doesn't speak hardly any English. These two are getting along like a hell. Bill and I are in the back of the truck, and I'm crazy. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's, probably 98 degrees. And so for some unknown reason, I said, gee, that's interesting. Over there, there's a people and have big ceremony. You follow that, it's a secret way out into the ocean. Well, I should not have said a word, because Bill hops out the truck, and he's gone like a streak of lightning in the area I was pointing to. I bang on the guy, tell him to stop the truck, and Bill's gone. He's away. And he's gone for some time, and Sammy, the driver, is chatting, and I'm thinking, I'm going to kill him when he gets back here. What is he doing? We're in the middle of nowhere. Could be robbers. I'm here with two 92-year-old people. Anyway, after a while, he comes jogging back and he says, "You're right. You're right. It's there. There is, but we need ropes. I need to go down." I said, "Get in the truck." Wait, don't get in the truck. And he said, "Well, we haven't got any rope." I said, "No, get in the truck. We're leaving right now." You don't tell Bill, over there's such and such, because he's gone.
Wow.
Anyway, that was one funny incident. The other one was at the hotel when I decided I needed to call home, and I couldn't get a line because it's not that easy there.
Mm-hmm.
So I go and I'm walking to the front desk, and it's a nice hotel, and I've got this feeling I'm being followed, which isn't unusual, but it was a creepy feeling, and I don't think to turn around. And so I get to the front desk, and there are mirrors behind the desk, and I look in the mirror, and behind me are two ninjas. They are armed to the teeth.
Ninjas?
Ninjas.
Oh,
yes.
God.
They've got hand grenades. They've got AK-47s.
Holy
They've got knives.
crap.
And I'm looking, thinking, and all you can see are their eyes. And I'm thinking, is this for real? Yeah, it's for real. So I tap on the desk, and another one pokes his head around the corner and says, "Go to your room."
Whoa.
Okay. So I'm going back to my room, followed by these two. I get in the door and I say, "Oh, Sammy's in bed." I say, "Sammy, we've got a big problem." "What's that, dear?" She said. I said, "The place is surrounded by ninjas." "Oh," she said. "Yeah, soldiers, Sammy." "Oh, well, don't worry, dear. We've got Bill."
Oh,
And she goes to sleep.
my
I am
God.
petrified. I think we're in the middle of a revolution.
Sure.
We're going to get captured. So I'm banging on the wall to wake up. "We got Bill." Because he's sound asleep. He doesn't wake up.
Oh, great.
I go out, and the hotel's back to normal. And I'm thinking, have I had some kind of weird experience or what? So I go to the front desk and I say, "Were there soldiers here?" And he goes, "Shh, shh." He goes. I said, "Okay. Come," he says, and I go into his office. He said, "Last night, our president, he get married, and he come here for his honeymoon night.
Oh.
But Miss Mitchell-Hedges, important lady, so we let you stay. All the rest of the hotel was cleared."
What?
Yes.
Wow. 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 That's
There's always something.
incredible.
So that was an experience.
Yeah. So they have a lot of respect for her and her work.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
not talked about a lot. I've done some research on it, and her Mitchell-Hedges used to bring doctors and medicine and
Yeah.
those sorts of things. They don't ever talk about that, and
No.
that
No.
they really did want to help in any way that
Yes.
they could, and they did a lot of service work.
Yes, they did, and he gave a lot to the areas that he was excavating and helped the native people a lot. They gave him lots of presents. They had lots of respect for him and Sammy, and she had the most wonderful stories.
Oh.
Yeah. But yes, that was Sammy, 92 years of age. We're going exploring.
Well, that gives me hope for the future.
Yes.
I want to be like that for sure.
Wherever the stuff is, something interesting happens, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And we've had we've had a lot of good times, and I think it has helped a great many people.
I found that at like Contact in the Desert when I don't know how many people came through, but you would do a group sessions with the skull, and then I don't know if you even do personal one-on-one sessions with the skull at all, but I could see where you said that. I remember that night. I think you said someone was just crying their eyes out, if I remember right, that Saturday, and so that's not so unusual, like you said.
Right.
but to have different people come and have all these experiences around you just
Mhm.
by being in the aura of the stone or the proximity
Yes.
of the stone. So
Well, you can certainly feel the energy um, from the skull. I mean, Bill has, I can tell you another funny story. Bill lets people, come really close to it and feel the energy from it. And one of the sessions, because you may or may not know, he's very, has quite the title in martial arts.
I just found that out that he
Yes,
is in the United States. He's in the Hall of Fame of karate.
yes,
Karate.
yes,
I just found that out a few days ago.
yeah,
He's so
very much
humble.
so.
He's very humble and quiet
Yeah.
like that.
So he was sitting with the skull facing him, and then had people sit opposite the skull, and he would just direct energy. A couple of times, people sat down, and as they put their hands up, they slowly slid off of the chair towards the floor. And I said, "Bill," he said, "Yeah." I said, "I think you better pull back the energy just a little bit." First one woman, and then about 4 people later, a guy slid slowly down.
Oh
And I
my
pulled up that big-
gosh. Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, and
So,
I also read that well, it was actually you guys just he had amazing meditation, not a meditation, but an interview on William Shatner's The Unexplained.
right,
And it was a great interview, and I know, you never know how they're going to set it up, right? But
right.
and so you can be vulnerable with this too, because
Mhm.
you just don't know how people. I bet you have stories where people they act like your best friend, and then they tell a story that's just not true.
Yes. Well, certainly in the media, but before William Shatner was as famous as he is, he came to see the skull with Sammy.
He did?
Yes.
Did she have a story of that? What was that like?
Yes. I mean, he was blown away with it and absolutely fascinated with it.
Huh.
And Shirley MacLaine is a big, she came to see it a few times. And there's quite a few well-known stars have come to see it.
Well, I was thinking, did Dan Aykroyd ever see it? Because he has that Crystal
No.
Skull vodka.
He didn't. No, he didn't.
He didn't.
Him and his Crystal Skull vodka. One of these days, I'm going to tell him that is not the kind of spirits.
That makes sense.
Funny.
So you've been doing this for a while, and how do you think it's received now compared at the beginning when you first started to do the interactions with the people? Has that changed? Has the skull itself developed more relationship with humanity, you think? Have you seen it change over the years, or has it always kind of remained the same?
Well, I think that in the beginning, of course, there was nothing really known about crystal skulls, and I learned of a great saying that kind of calmed my psyche in some respects, and it's, if you want to hide the original, create 1,000,000 copies. And I thought, that's why it happened. And first of all, people were intrigued with it. Then everybody wanted to prove it a fake.
Right.
A fake what? I mean, it's a crystal skull. There's no faking about it. There it is. It's crystal and it's a skull. How can it be a fake? But they want to prove that it is not ancient. They haven't done that yet. And unfortunately, if you take your information from the media, you have to understand that there's a lot they don't put in there.
Exactly.
And there is this idea that humanity should not know what the origins of the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, anything that comes out, they try to discredit. And I will tell you that there is only a grain of what is the truth that has been written about the skull. Mitchell-Hedges did not buy it from the auction. I have seen a paper that actually he had to pay off a gambling debt and didn't have the money, so he left the skull with the person, who then tried to sell it through the auction. And I've seen the piece of paper. I've seen the IOU. No, there are very few people. Maybe Bill has seen it. I don't know of any other people that have seen it. So the story about him buying it is not true. They have some facts, but the facts are not written with the whole truth, and that's what this forbidden archaeology idea does, so that we're kept ignorant.
Right.
But there are many things that are coming to light, and they can't keep people in ignorance forever. And again, I say that if you're of like minds and your spirit tells you that there is far more to you than you've ever been taught, then you go on your own adventure of looking for the answers. And I think that the skull encourages everybody to say there's far more to planet Earth and to the universe than you have dreamed of. And we're here to prove it to you.
Yeah, like a seeker of truth. Be a seeker of truth, right? Yeah, and can we talk about the, I hate when interviewers say that, so, and I just did it, but about the ET connection, or is there an ET, an extraterrestrial connection with the skull? And if there is, what is that, and what does that look like or feel like? Or
well, what it says is that it was programmed with from 13 Atlantean masters without personality. In other words, pure information without their take on it. And
what?
That's what it says. That's what it says of itself.
So was it 13 other computers then?
Well, people have said that there are 13 other skulls. I think it might have said it too, that are recorders with information to help humanity. Now, it is also said they're all not all are in the shape of the skull. And I don't know whether the skull said it or whether I asked the skull, which I don't often do. And I think one of them is something that is in the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant. It talks about the Ark of the Covenant being a voice of God that led the people through the desert. And I think that is one of the recorders of the extraterrestrials that came here. The story is that there was a time when Earth had 2 moons. And whatever happened, one of the moons blew up or got destroyed. It set the planet Earth out of balance. And the blue planet, as it calls, is very important in the universe because it holds a balance. And the moon was inhabited at one time. I have an interesting story about that. And when the dimension gates were open, extraterrestrial travel was frequent to the blue planet. But when the moon was destroyed, the dimension gates, or if you hold your fingers together with your hands out, spread out, and then you put your fingers between each other, that's what happened. The gates slipped, and so extra travel was very difficult. And those that were on the Earth many of them decided to stay to help progress. And of course, there was a lot of damage done to the blue planet, and I think that accounts for the floods, etc. And some were trapped. The ones that were trapped from different dimensions were not particularly happy, and hence we have humanity that is constantly at war with each other. And it goes back to the time of this imbalance in the universe. However, the skull does say that very slowly that the gates are beginning to come back into alignment. Mm-hmm. And so extraterrestrial travel will be a thing accepted by those that don't want to destroy the planet.
I'm looking forward to that. But
I keep saying, mine's the window seat.
I like that. I'd want to learn how to fly it. That would be the fun part. That would be really fun.
Well, then I won't be taking your plane. You're going to be learning to fly it. Your source. But it's interesting because it gave so much description about the time of the two moons. And in my travels, I happened to meet one of the astronauts, Edgar Mitchell.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He said, well, somebody said, oh, this woman can tell you all about your life. And he said, really? I said, no. And he said, what can you tell me? I said, well, give me something that you have with you. And he said, like what? I said, well, they're moon rock. And he got really angry and he said, I don't have any moon rocks. We're not allowed to bring any. And I thought, oops. Whoops.
Busted.
So he walked away. And I was standing with my hands behind my back and I felt something in my hand. And so I closed my hand around, turned around, and it was Edgar Mitchell. Anyway, the information given to him was, so you thought you were going home. And it was a big surprise when you found you weren't the first there. And he just looked at me, and in his eyes you could tell that this was something that he could not tell. They were not allowed to tell.
Right.
And in my hand was a moon rock that he had made into a keychain.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. When they landed there, they found they were not the first. No wonder they all went, they got into the booze, and some of them, and really sort of became unhinged a little bit.
Right.
And we'll never hear about that.
No, probably not in our lifetime, probably, but maybe hopefully later.
More and more information is coming out, and I think pretty soon that, it's how are we going to handle it? We can't handle this pandemic. How are we going to handle knowing that extraterrestrials have been here for forever? And that's another thing that the scholars said recently. The first thing, because somebody asked about all the trouble on the earth, and the first thing it said is, you have to understand that not all who will walk your earth are, as you would term, human.
Right.
So,
has it talked much about that? Or like with Zachariah Stitchin's work, the Anunnaki and that whole...
Right. Yeah. Well, it did. It said, when you understand that, you will bring more peace to the earth, because we all look and say, well, they're human, but look at our prisons and look at our, population. Mm-hmm. There are those that who do not have a connection to their spirit or to their soul, and those are new beings upon the earth, and they're here to learn that. But we treat everybody as if they have this understanding. They don't. Mm-hmm. Psychiatry has a name, they call them psychopaths, but actually it's really, they do not have the ability to exercise the spirituality. It's not there.
Yeah. So do you think it's almost like a parasite?
Yeah,
That's
same.
kind of when I see it's kind of like a parasite.
They're from different life sources that are floating through the universe, landing upon Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they're given birth to, but it's interesting when you think of we'll take the crystal makeup of the human body, and they recently found that when they analyzed stuff coming through the universe, there was a lot of crystal particles.
Mm.
Now, some have more and some have less and some don't have any at all, which is interesting.
Yeah. And then bringing that back to the skull, which is pure crystal.
Yes. And if you think about how much information can be put on the head of a pin that's crystal.
Right.
And you think of the crystal skull.
Jeez. And that it's two parts too. That's the part that it's like you want to just shout that. It's two parts. It's not just one part. It's two parts. What if that doesn't take you over? I don't know what does, And that's like, oh well, it has two parts, like it's nothing. That's huge.
Yes. Yes, even the carving of it is phenomenal. It's got, I think, 8 prisms in each eye.
Oh.
Each eye.
Well,
and if you know anything about getting a prism put into a pair of glasses, it costs you an arm and a leg because it's so difficult to do, or used to be, and probably easy in technology, but there's no way that could have been done.
Well, and what surprised me was that on each cheek, up above, closer to the eye, you're probably better at where the placement is, are 2 carved dolphins.
Right.
I was shocked when I saw that. It was so unexpected, and I had never heard that, and just didn't expect that at all, to see 2 dolphins like pointed up. What's your take on that? I mean, they could have put anything there, so it's not put there by accident. It's put there some meaning to that. So.
The skull did say that the dolphins were one particular life force that had evolved, or not evolved, but had been placed upon the planet to help humanity.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And we just think of them as fish. And they said also that if we didn't sort of change our ways, that the intelligence of that mammal will.
I'm sorry, the intelligence of that mammal would
leave. In other words, they become extinct, I think.
No, we can't let that happen.
Right. So we have to stop the sonar being beamed through the bottom of the oceans.
Right. And then we'll talk about 5G, right? The 5G rollout. Mm-hmm. So, oh my God. We need the crystal skull. We need a superhero. We need some help down here, We really do.
Well, I think that what it has said all along is that, we've left you all the information you need, and we don't put all of it in one place because that would be like putting all the power in one hand, but we've left it for you, distributed amongst the small blue planet, and people have been trying for eons to get these crystal skulls all together. It says when they are all brought together that there will be a infinite wisdom, I think.
Huh.
That's what it called it.
Do they have a timeline for that?
No.
Mm-hmm.
And do they tell you where they are? No. Well, it did say that there was some. I think it did in the book. See, I haven't read the book. You don't read the book. I think it said that there was one in. It doesn't use our terminology of places on the earth, but where they have left their. I think it was talking about Egypt. It might have said Egypt. I don't know. There was one left there.
Huh.
There was one, I think, in the Himalayas. But again, we're looking for crystal skulls. Are they all crystal skulls? We're not really sure on that.
I like what you said. I'd never heard that before, and that's the first time I heard that, and it rings true that it maybe they're not all crystal skulls, right? They're but probably made from crystal, though, right? In that same fashion,
Yeah,
that high degree of sophistication that we can't match
right.
yet or ever. I don't know.
Well, until we have an understanding that we aren't. I mean, we all look human, but we have to understand that we're not all spiritual beings.
Right, right. Wow. And what do you think of it with the Aquarian age? Does that go together with the skull that we're finally in the Aquarian age? We're still in a Kali Yuga, but we're in the Aquarian age.
Well, I don't know what the skull would say about that. I know that it talks about the progression is left entirely in our hands, and I think until we stop doing the things we're doing until we are enlightened, and I mean enlightened by understanding a lot of the information and knowledge of the blue planet has been hidden from us deliberately.
Right, right.
Till we are enlightened as to, wait a minute, this is much more important than we've been led to believe, and there is proof left everywhere.
Mm-hmm. In our history and our archaeology, right? Exactly.
And once we understand that, it kind of broadens our thinking, and then we ask, well, why, if they came, why did they leave? Well, here's the answer. Because there was a destruction, and we have proof of that with the floods.
Right.
Every religion and every history talks of the Great Flood. Well, when the blue planet was kind of thrown off kilter somewhat, then all these catastrophes happened, and now it became a war for who's going to control the planet, and that hasn't ended. It's
still happening.
A war of who's going to control the planet.
Yeah.
And I think they just sit watching, saying, okay, well, it gets to the point of they understand that nobody is in control of the planet, and they need to coexist. We will get a lot more help from outside sources.
And you talked earlier about the inhabitants on the moon.
Yes.
Can you go into that a little bit?
What were they? I don't know. I haven't held the moon rock for a few minutes, but
okay.
I think when the time of the destruction, I think that they had to leave our moon as we know it now. But I think anybody that's been there, who is sworn to secrecy, knows that there was life.
Right.
No.
Right. And have you heard that part where, and maybe the skulls talked about it, where it's just parked there, that it's not maybe it's natural that it's just parked.
So it's a satellite?
Yes.
Held in place? Yeah.
Yes.
It says that this moon is held in place for balance. Actually, it's that there's a sign where there's two balls and a figure eight goes around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what the idea of our Earth and the moon is, that it's held there by a lot to do with the blue planet, which is the Earth. The skull calls it the small blue planet.
I love that. When I had the near-death experience and viewed the Earth from the other side, they called it the blue gem.
Yeah, there you go.
I just thought of that. I haven't thought about that in a long time. It sure is a beautiful planet, though. It is an amazingly beautiful planet.
Well, if only humanity could see that.
Marie says, wow, I'm so loving your sharing of the crystal skull and your knowledge, Carole. Thank you. I live in an area that is full of quartz crystals. While visiting at a ground crystal mine, I received a energy wall message, and it was beautiful. The 13th constellation is the big snake O, which goes through all the cosmos. That's interesting, the 13th constellation. And I was just talking with Bill. I had a snake dream, a lucid dream with a snake, and that's right before he went to the Serpent Mound. But I haven't had one of those in a long time, and it was a snake coming down the corridor, and it wrapped itself around me very gently, come up above my head, and then it comes back down and bit me on the neck. And then I woke up. So.
Oh, what did that mean?
It's time to wake up, probably, about something. I'm not sure. I wasn't afraid at all. It didn't feel menacing, but it was kind of like, and it was on the 5th chakra. So I'm thinking maybe I need to wake up and speak out more. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Do you have any hit on that? I'll just ask you that. I wasn't planning on that, but.
Well, in some understandings, it would be that the snake was imparting knowledge that is hidden, because wasn't it the snake that said eat the apple? And
right.
It's. I would think that it's imparting knowledge to you that you know, but you need to voice or share.
Right. It's an interesting, and it was a white snake. It was a beautiful white snake. So don't know why it was white, but it was a white snake. And it was funny because before that, Bill and I were looking at things. He was showing me these different doors, and I'm going, oh, that's really cool. And then he's showing me something else. That's really cool. and then I looked down this long hallway, and then this snake was beautiful, huge. It was like taller than a house. So it was just this gigantic, enormous snake. So, and I'm thinking, God, I gotta remember. And I woke right up and remembered it, but I'm still working on what's that about, because that doesn't happen very often to me. So
if you were opening doors or looking at doors, the snakes would suggest that you have knowledge that you've basically hidden behind the door.
Yeah, I think so.
Want to find instead of time to share it.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I would. I've never gotten a regression. Maybe I need a regression on the rest of the near-death experience. I'm not sure, but I've been meditating on it. Nothing's come yet, but it does. I think I'll get it in another dream. Is that weird? But I'm kind of thinking that too.
Well, if you can also daydream.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same kind of experience. And what is it that you don't want to share?
I don't know. See, I don't know. It probably has to do with ET, I'm sure. Something to do with that somehow. But I'm not sure what that is. I've been studying it for 30 years and researching and writing about it,
So there's some part of it that you kind of don't feel brave enough yet to go through that door.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
Biting you on the neck would suggest it's time.
Yeah. Well, I want to do it. I'm open to it. I always think I'm pretty fearless and courageous, and then I'm a little wimp too, okay, at the same time. So like we were talking earlier, and I said, I want to touch the skull, and then right after I said, I go, oh no, you don't. You're fine. You're fine. You're cool. You don't need to touch it, you know.
You were right there with it. So I think, it would be the same energy. It feels stronger the closer you get to it. That's all. And
Yeah.
it feels like a wind that is pushing against your hand. You can actually feel a
Oh,
physical sensation. It's
oh,
very, very interesting.
yeah. Wow.
With me, when I touch it, it's like um, a million things come into my mind, but I cannot verbalize them because I'm still there, kind of thing.
Right.
And apparently I say, "Oh, did you see that?" People,
So,
no, what did you see?
so does it?
Thinking that everybody can see what I can in that minute when I touch it, that
Wow.
everybody can see.
D-
Um,
so where do
thinking
you
I could
go
tell.
when, as you're not aware of saying what you're saying? Where do you know where you go, or
No,
no?
I have no idea. All I can tell you is, as I got more comfortable, I could hear this voice, and
Huh.
I tried to listen, but the more I tried to listen, the further away I got, till in the
Oh,
end it was like, "Oh, just go to sleep," and that was the easiest. And my blood pressure drops because they
wow.
had me all. And one session, which lasted for 3.5 hours, I think, I lost 6 pounds in weight, which was good.
What?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my
they weighed
God.
me. In these experiments, they weighed me, and they had my blood pressure and the brainwave pattern. Oh, I mean, it was it was crazy. Um, yes, 6 pounds, but as the doctor said, it's just water weight. But yeah, it was. Unfortunately, it came back. But
Huh.
that was a lot.
Wow, wow. Do you get hungry or starving afterwards, or do you get sleepy, or are you energized, or is that
I'm
depending on
freezing cold.
freezing cold?
I can't quite remember what I was. It's like, what was I doing? What did I say? It's like being suddenly woken up in a strange place
Huh.
because I don't really remember how I got there. And then as I sort of come around, and usually people are talking, and but the thing is that not to touch me because it makes bruises or burns.
Whoa,
Mm,
whoa. So you really go into a real alternate state of
yes,
beingness.
yes. And I can't remember anything that's been said, or I sort of think, was I saying something? Or I remember one time it was kind of funny. Sammy always made a nice cup of tea for me. And this one time she said, "I can't remember, dear, do you take sugar in your tea?" And I couldn't for the life of me remember. And I
Oh,
said, uh, yes, I think so. Anyway, when I got my cup of tea, I took a mouthful of it. I don't take sugar in my tea. It was like, whoa, that was kind of funny.
that's wild. That's just. Does the skull ever come to you in dreams, or through any other way, or is it just like totally when you're with it, you're totally with it, and then you're not with
Uh,
it?
no, it'll give messages
Oh,
like, and it's a very different, I call it, my word for it is frequency.
mm,
Because the other day when we were doing a meditation, well, we didn't do a meditation, we did an intention, which is different.
mm.
And it was to do with the virus.
Oh,
And afterwards, it ends up very late for me. It's about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So I thought, well, that's a good thing, but didn't really get much information. Anyway, I couldn't sleep. And it was like I had to do something, or I had to remember something, and I couldn't. And I was saying, what do you want me to do? Like, now it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, what is this to do? What is this about the virus? Well, what about the virus? What should we do about it? What can I do about it? And very clearly I heard, that's already been given. Now, you have to, again, I say the skull communicates in a very different verbiage than I would use. It's very computer-like. And it said, this information's already been given. And I thought, no, it didn't. See, that's me coming into, no, it hasn't. I don't know anything about it. It's not said anything about, and I knew it was from the skull. So I thought, now it's about 2:30, and I'm thinking, how could it possibly have already been given? Who did it give it to? Blah, 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 blah. And then I think, oh. So I quickly send off a text to somebody who is in your part of the world and who has a book. And I said, can you look through the book and see if there's anything about this virus? And I didn't receive a reply. And so now I go to sleep because I've done whatever. And I wake up and in the morning I'm thinking, what was I so bothered about? Oh, right, the information. So I look at the computer and lo and behold, she writes back on page 50. And remember, this was published in 81, so it was probably, or 83, it was probably given in about 79 or 80. It talks all about a virus that's going to come to the earth.
I have to get that book.
I think that if you go to the website, I think they put the page up there with the information on.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I thought, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yes, that's very impressive. Wow.
Wow. Well, I was more impressed with the fact that I couldn't sleep, and it was like I couldn't get the information. I didn't know why I couldn't sleep. I knew the skull was trying to communicate something, but it kept saying, it's already been given. And I'm asking, what's the cure for the virus? What is it? It's already been given. It's already been given. But of course, I didn't think about the book until
later. Wow.
And so page 50 on the book.
Okay. And you are writing a second book now?
We started, but it didn't sort of take off. I think another one needs to be written.
I think so too.
And so now we just wait for Bill and we'll get together and do it.
Yeah, I see it
but
happening.
But in the time, is the skull giving out messages all the time? Yes.
It is.
It is.
Wow, wow. So do you write them down or keep a journal, or
no,
No.
I can't both. I the person can't be in between.
Yeah.
It's something outside of me.
Yeah.
Because I would write it down in my words and probably wouldn't be the right meaning.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, we just have a few minutes left. How do you like that? This is like, it just went really smooth, except for a little technical at the beginning. So.
Oh, it's a technical issue.
But we stayed with it. We persevered through it. So it's just been really perfect and lovely having you on the show. I just am happy.
That's nice. Thank you. It's nice to be on this. Are there any questions?
There was one. I think we got to it though. I think we're good. We didn't have as many questions today. I think they're just listening to your amazing, So, just the one lady said that she bought important crystals when she was in Tibet long ago. So, like, she was guided to get them. So, the skull, if it wants you, it's going to come get you, right?
Yes, it is.
You can't hide from it.
No. I think once you've seen it too, like I always knew it. It's like an old friend. It's like I always knew this. You didn't know it, but you feel when like something that I always, almost like you had it, but you lost
Yeah.
it. With it again,
Yeah.
oh, there it is.
And you don't want to let go of it. That's what I found. You just don't want to let go of it. Now that it has to stay there some way, so it's there.
Yes, and you do get sort of information. I think it somehow works on our subconscious that we get synchronicities, which is a big word for things we can't explain.
Right.
But there's always an intelligence working, always.
Yeah. If we just tune in and not be so busy, right?
Yes.
Now that are in home, we can meditate on the. So let's get everyone to come to your next meditation, and that. So all you have to do if you're listening to this is go on Facebook and go to the Mitchell. That's Mitchell with the little bar. I don't know what you call that. The hyphen Hedges hyphen HEDGES Crystal Skull Meditations, and just go to that and you'll see their next meditation is, I think it's April 23rd, but just go hit that and you'll just community. There's some great people there. All of them are very friendly, beautiful people, and you can hang out and meditate with the Crystal Skull. Thank you, Carole Davis. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week, and I have who's going to be on my show? I think it's Preston Dennett, but I'm not for sure. So have a great week, everybody. Much love to all of you. Peace out.